Pass in Baltimore. Many people I ran into in the demilitarized zone that was the perimeter around the convention center in Houston, Texas. This guy is in Chicago writing all things NFL as the shutdown corner for Yahoo Sports and out on Twitter. He is Eric Edholm. You can follow his journey out there on Twitter at Eric_Edholm. That's EDHOLM. And dude, we didn't get a beer together, and I'm sure I'll see you at the Combine in a couple of weeks, but certainly plenty of meat on the bone in the aftermath of the greatest comeback in NFL history, in my opinion.
Yeah, and first of all, the first part about the beer, I blame it on that perimeter they set up, right? I mean, Roger Goodell's Secret Service and only Uber drivers allowed in, so it's totally understandable. But yeah, I mean, there are so many takeaways from this game. The shocking first half, the lead getting bigger in the third quarter, the comeback, and all the little elements along the way. I mean, I think everybody wants to say, oh, okay, Tom Brady's the greatest, and it's just that, or Kyle Shanahan's the GOAT, and it's just that. Well, look, there are a lot of subtleties from this game that, all kind of in one confluence came together to create this unbelievable result. That's the way I saw it anyway.
Well, the last 18 minutes, Tom Brady was put into a position where he had to be perfect. Couldn't take a sack, couldn't dirt the ball, couldn't throw another pick. Nobody could afford a fumble. They couldn't afford a 3 and out. They kicked a field goal down 28-9, right? I mean, a lot of coaches just on testosterone would not have done that, right? Because, how much are you really in the game? But you are in the game, and you got to stay in the game. Boy, the Falcons didn't stay in the game the last 5 minutes. I mean, that passing play and taking a sack from the 22-yard line when all you need to do is pick up a handful of yards and kick a field goal to ice the thing, it's kind of unforgivable.
Yeah, no, there's no question, right? I mean, like you said, Patriots miss an extra point. They attempt a field goal. They go onside kick. I mean, a lot of things sort of didn't work out for them, and they were still able to pull this off. I don't think they win it without first the sack by Hightower, the strip sack that gave them that short field. And then, like you said, fast-forwarding to 2nd and 11 from the 22. Basically, you'd get a better result by taking 2 knees and kicking a field goal than you would by attempting to throw in that situation. Now, hindsight is 20/20, of course, but
you didn't need a touchdown there. You needed a field goal.
Exactly. You make it a 2-possession game. You live to fight another day. You take some time off the clock, or you force them to use their timeouts early. I mean, whatever. That alone is worth something. Plus the fact that, when they were up 28-6, they'd had a nice even distribution: 16 runs, 14 passes. From that point on, 12 passes, 5 runs. I mean, I witnessed with my own eyes Devontae Freeman was juking dudes left and right. I know Coleman got hurt, but still, I can't really find an answer for it. And, it's easy for guys like us to question play calling, and there's a million factors involved. But you're right. That felt hyper-aggressive to me, a little bit overboard.
As a fan, and I think about this ahead of time, and I don't know how coaches do this, but I see it happen. When I talk about clock mismanagement, and I've been talking about that, I mean, Billick and I used to go nose-to-nose on that 15 years ago when he was the coach, and he would kid me about it. Hey, you got to bring up clock management again. Well, yeah, I am going to bring up clock management right now, because if I had a 28-3 lead against the greatest team there ever was and the greatest quarterback and the brilliant mind of Bill Belichick, the number one thing in my mind would be, beginning 8.5 minutes left to go in the third quarter, I would use every second on every play. I would say to Matt Ryan, you snap the ball at 3, 2, 1, every play. Every play goes on 2 or 1. We're going to bleed the clock on every time the clock's moving. We're running the ball because the clock is the only thing that can beat you, is giving Tom Brady enough time to beat you. All the mistakes they made, all the stupid stuff they did, the strip sack, the aggressive offensive game planning, trying to throw when they should have been running. It's inexcusable that they were snapping the ball with 14, 16, and 18 seconds left on the play clock with a live clock. To me, I just can't get – Belichick would never do that if he had a 28-3 lead.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Belichick be aggressive with leads, wanting to kind of step on teams' necks, but there's always that little hedging, too, with it, too. I mean, you have to kind of balance it. I understand wanting to go tempo because I just happened to watch a little bit of this game right before before we spoke. You know, the one thing that seemed to be giving the Patriots defense trouble was that tempo offense. You know, and they weren't getting set. They had some blown coverages. They missed some tackles. They looked a little confused out there defensively. So credit Shanahan for some clever play designs and different things, and also going up tempo to get that lead at 28-3. But I understand, you know, you can't just keep it in cruise control and assume that it's going to keep going that same way when, like you said, you want to make the clock your friend, not your enemy. And you don't want to be shooting yourself in the foot and give Tom Brady 4 possessions in a 4-score game. You know, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. You can say, okay, you know, they felt like they could go up and try to get another touchdown. Okay, you know, I sort of see the wisdom in that. You want to knock it. You got to cut the head off the beast, but at the same time, like
when it's 28-3, you have cut the head off the beast, Eric. I mean, literally.
I know.
When it's 28-3, you have slayed the giant. Now run the clock. Literally.
Right. Exactly. Let the blood slowly seep out, if you will. I guess. Yeah. So I'm with you. I understand wanting to be aggressive. I also understand that you can get up to the line quickly. You know, see if they're completely discombobulated back there. You know, they've got a guy running off the field or something, or you're catching with 12 men. Go for it. Snap the ball. Get the penalty. Whatever. That's fine. I understand that. But you can also sit there at the line, survey things, and let that clock get down under 5 seconds. That makes a little bit more sense to me. And it's kind of the hurry up and wait offense, I guess. But still, yeah, that's kind of what they teach you. Third quarter, I can kind of understand it. Fourth quarter, I certainly can't.
He is Eric Edholm. He is an NFL writer with Yahoo Sports. He writes the Shutdown Corner blog. You can follow his journey out at yahoo.com as well as at Eric_Edholm. That's EDHOLM out on Twitter. And tens of thousands do follow along with him. You know, for me, the inexcusable parts of all of these kind of losses, like I was an Oiler fan, Eric. You know, I remember the Bills game. I remember how many interceptions, fumbles, you know, 3 and outs, stupid things, you know, a chuck and duck offense, not burning the clock, all of that stuff. And I look back to the Pete Carroll situation where, you know, why are you passing the ball when you have Marshawn Lynch? Or even in the case of Jim Harbaugh in our Super Bowl 4 years ago, where you threw the ball on, you know, first and goal from the 1 and you don't get in, and you have to live with that forever. But this Atlanta thing wasn't one play. It wasn't one series. It was literally an incredible meltdown to allow Tom Brady to run 99 plays. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, no, that's why I feel like placing, you know, and I can understand why Kyle Shanahan would tell people privately, hey, I blew it or whatever, according to some reports. I mean, he hasn't said it publicly. I didn't hear it, et cetera, but you see that floating out there. I understand why a coach would want to fall on the sword or would feel like it was his responsibility. But at the same time, as you pointed out, this was, you know, a defense that came out playing man-free, playing man defense probably 3/4 of the game, something they hadn't done all season long. That was a look, you know, and asking them to do it for almost 100 plays, you know, 70-plus, 80-plus plays where they're covering man. Man, for a defense that doesn't have a ton of depth, that's asking a lot, even for a young one and a fast one like the Falcons have. That's a factor. You know, the special teams gaffes, too. I know that the Patriots made some, but like running kickoffs back out of the end zone, I know you want to burn clock, but when you're 4 and 5 yards deep and they kick those kind of high arcing kickoffs and you're only getting out to the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-yard line, that doesn't really do you a lot of good, okay? Offenses act differently inside their own 20 than they do at the 25-yard line. The statistics back it up. The difference between the 20 and the 25-yard line is big. Teams behave differently when they're out there. So there's that factor. And then there's the offensive play calling we talked about. So it really was this crazy confluence of events. Patriots played well. But, yes, the Falcons made plenty of unforced errors that they can look to themselves for blame for.
Well, I don't know whether to shower Brady with, you know, all the compliments. Certainly the comeback is otherworldly, and the door was left open for the greatest player in the history of the game, and I don't know how we make that argument. Look, last week, we sat around here all week, and I was telling a couple friends, you know, I shot NFL films in my top 10. That's why I was so Natalie attired on Friday, Eric. And, and, you know, one of the categories and one of the shows they're doing this year is top 10 Tom Brady, victory, his signature top 10 wins. This game wasn't even a part of that list, and I made an argument for the Tuck Rule game being the most famous because it kind of put Brady on the map. This will go down in the ages, right? Like, I mean, this comeback, when we think of Frank Reich, it's the only thing he ever did in his NFL career, right? Brady has all of these pelts on the wall, all of these rings, but really nothing last week suggested that they were capable of a 25-point comeback in one quarter.
Oh, no, right. I mean, look, I was writing my Patriots obit, and I, too, did the NFL film stuff, and I actually answered one of those Brady games as well. I was at one of them. I was at a couple of them, actually. But yeah, and there were some that weren't on the list that I thought, boy, they didn't even bring up the Saints game. They didn't bring up this one. They didn't bring up this comeback. So, by normal quarterback standards, and Manning's had a bunch, Favre's had a bunch, Marino, et cetera, Joe Montana, but you could make a top 20 for Brady and still feel like there's maybe one or two that missed, that we didn't get that one in there. I mean, that's what's incredible. I mean, look, I look at the big stages he's been on. He's certainly had more opportunities than anybody else because he's won more. They've been in a billion playoff games, but, his ability, even after a sluggish first half, to crank it up and to get to that elite level and just smell blood and go for it, I don't know anybody like that. I don't know anyone who can do that after overthrowing receivers, after hearing footsteps, after feeling the pressure in the first half and misfiring and have a pick six and all that stuff. It's like his memory just goes blank after every play, and every play is its own little game, and I just don't know how the guy does it.
Well, the pick six was one of the most delicious ever, right? That was the ultimate. If you hated Tom Brady and you were on the side of, never seeing him have to shake hands with Goodell and accept the trophy, that was sort of a defining, Tom Brady planking moment, right? I mean, that's what that was. Him giving chase to one that couldn't be caught, and that play will be erased from everybody's memory. It's like it never happened now that they won, right?
Oh, it's crazy because I think if it was 14-0 at the time, and you knew the Falcons were getting the ball first in the third quarter. They'd won the toss and deferred. So here's Brady desperately trying to lead his team back for 14-7 or, God forbid, 14-3. Just get some points, get into halftime, down 7, down 11 points, whatever it is. And you think, okay, that's manageable. Even if the Falcons come down and kick a field goal, first possession of the third, okay, fine. You can live with that. That's fine. But to throw that ball and to really force it in there and not, that was just not a good pass. That was a lot like some other interceptions we've seen from him in the postseason. It was crazy. And to see him kind of feebly dive at, this young Robert Alford just flying by him, what an image that was. And it's crazy to think that was the photo that the Boston Globe had to put on their early editions as like people living in Florida got Boston Globes delivered to them saying a bitter end with the picture of Brady just sort of helplessly lying there on the turf. That's crazy, and you're right. He's going to be one of those forgotten heroes. Alford played an amazing game for the most part, and that play just as a footnote now.
Where do you put Matt Ryan in all this? I mean, it's bad enough to have a pass called 2nd and 1 on the 22-yard line when you have an 8-point lead in the Super Bowl and all you need to do is bleed the clock. It's okay to get in the huddle and call that play and then snap that ball. Completely unacceptable that he took a sack, right? How do you expect to win a Super Bowl if that's the way you're going to behave and you're the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, the 3rd and 1 play, it was clear that even though Devontae Freeman denied it after the game, it was clear he had to pick up Hightower on that blitz, and he just didn't. And the guy runs the arc, hits him, knocks the ball loose. That one you could put on Freeman. It looked like Ryan had an open guy, but the one on the next drive that you mentioned, that's one that he's got to throw away, and he admitted it after the game. Ryan said, look, that's one I got to get rid of. I mean, we're talking about a guy who turned in the highest passer rating for a losing quarterback. It was like 144. Even if you don't love the passer rating stat, he was mostly excellent in limited opportunities. He made the most of them. He made big plays. And yet, when it comes down to quarterbacking excellence, we're going to remember some of those little things down the stretch that kept them from winning. He was a small part of it, but you have to include it in the conversation.
Well, I don't know if it's a small part. Taking the sack when you're the quarterback and you're making $25 million, that's not small. Getting a strip sack down there with a 3-touchdown, that's not small. I mean, quarterback rating be damned. It was fine. He's going to be a guy who lost the Super Bowl with a 25-point lead. I mean,
right. There's no doubt.
It's inconceivable. I mean, Warren Moon did the same thing on the other side with Houston, and it really was about poor decisions with the football and poor play calls and checking off on. I mean, I can't imagine being a Falcons fan right now, and I can't imagine what Dan Quinn and Matt Ryan are going to have to try to circle the wagons and come back and play football in 6 months. This isn't going to be an easy thing to come back from.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's two types. You lose the Super Bowl, there's disappointment. Ask the Carolina Panthers about that, right? But there's a different level of disappointment when it happens in such crushing fashion, when it happens in such unbelievable, inexplicable fashion. And you're right, Matt Ryan is one of those guys. If this was Drew Brees, let's say, a guy who's already won a ring, or Eli Manning or whoever else you want to substitute.
Or Roethlisberger or Flacco or any Rodgers, anybody could get freight trained by Tom Brady. That's happened to all of them, right?
Oh, I mean, Brady losing that game to the Giants in early 2008 was, at the time, probably hurt him to no end. I mean, that had to be crushing because it was this historic event, but still, he already had 3 rings to kind of back up on. It wasn't like this was the career-defining moment. But for Matt Ryan, look, as promising as the Falcons look, they're in the NFC. They still have to go through Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott and everybody the next 5 years. He may not get back there, and that may be the one game that kind of encapsulates his career. He played brilliantly, but then there were those few plays and that lead that evaporated, and it's going to be it's going to be up top, high in the obit when he passes away, and we talk about him as a Hall of Fame candidate. Games like that are going to be brought up.
Eric Edholm joins us, NFL writer from Yahoo Sports. He writes the Shutdown Corner blog, and you can follow his journey out on Twitter at Eric_Edholm. I always like to plug his oral history of the 1996 Ravens. That's also available on the front of his Twitter. If you're a Ravens fan, you do not want to miss that, and some reading up on that as well. All right, so, for the offseason here and for where the NFL is, I know we're going to be at the Combine in a couple weeks. I'm going to be at the owners' meetings in Phoenix in about 7 weeks. Chargers going to L.A., Raiders don't have a home. Everybody once again chasing the New England Patriots and trying to figure out how to get that good when the Patriots just make it look so easy.
I know. And, they've got cap space. They've got Brady. They've got Gronk coming back. They could trade Garoppolo if they choose to, and it seems like there are 2 or 3 teams bidding for him. So, they're going to get draft picks back perhaps. And
they're going to be the favorite. September 1st, they're going to open at home on Thursday night against somebody, maybe the Falcons. And, everybody's going to – the over-under wins for them is going to be 12. You like the over or the under, right?
Oh, 12.5, 13, whatever. I mean, Brady's playing 16 games. I mean, it's just – you keep thinking about it in these terms like, why aren't they going to lose? So, of course they're going to win games next year, barring crazy disaster.
Well, I know they're going to play the Bills and the Jets, right?
And the Jets and whoever. Yeah, I mean, it's set up for them to win for another, 3-4 years at the least. So, very enviable position. A lot of teams looking for quarterbacks this year. The draft may not be, instant coffee for that position. There may be some real consternation over which is the highest rated guy and who do we like and all that stuff. So, Bears, 49ers, Browns, team like the Steelers with all the Roethlisberger rumors, he may hang it up. There's 7 or 8 teams looking for quarterbacks next year, and either a guy for now or a guy for tomorrow, but somebody that they have to invest in. So, as I head to the Combine down the road with you, I mean, I'm kind of thinking about there are a lot of needy teams and not a lot of clear solutions right now, not knowing what happens with Kirk Cousins and guys like that.
Well, you say needy teams, and obviously we're here in Baltimore with our noses pressed up to the glass. 3 out of 4 years haven't made the playoffs now.
Right.
The pitchforks are out according to the owner. And for Ozzie, who's the only guy that's ever chosen a player here, as you've chronicled in your blog, your oral history in 96, the fact that it's the 17 draft and Ozzie's still drafting and Harbaugh's still around. And, we've had this issue with the offense. offense and running the football, and and it becomes a little more clear how far away you are when you watch what the Falcons did, even what the Packers did in the playoffs, as well as the Steelers winning by an arm on Christmas Day. But you look at the Ravens, and I can't remember an offseason where Ozzy's had this many fires to put out, including the Zach Orr retirement.
Right. Obviously, we'll put the Ray Rice offseason to one side because that was its own deal, and there was still a team that was competitive and everything. But you're right. I mean, I think you come in and when you have to have the owner come in to kind of, make some comments and be asked about this type of thing. And, we had mentioned, at the start of his career, boy, John Harbaugh's made the playoffs every year, and he's been great, and he's never been below 500. Well, now we've had, like you said, 3 out of 4 years where that hasn't been the case. So, yeah, there are issues. Steve Smith retires. Terrell Suggs on the 18th tee or whatever. So, yeah, there are a lot of things to figure out. And even the negative progression of Joe Flacco, I think, has to be at least considered.
The negative progression of the whole offense, quite frankly,
yeah.
and who's running the offense and how many different people they're going to have in. I mean, to some degree, I think they kept Marty Mornhinweg because Joe's comfortable with him, John's comfortable with him, but it hasn't been because it's been productive. I mean, and part of that's the players and part of that's the scheme. But, I mean, until you can run the football, I don't think you can win in this league.
No, you're right. And, maybe Kenneth Dixon steps up and is that guy. We saw little flashes from him. And, maybe there's some solutions on the roster, or maybe they do need to go and get some more help outside, too. Now, Marty's always run those pass-first offenses. Quarterbacks love him because he puts the ball in their hands to go win it. But then you start asking, okay, well, who's catching the passes then? Who's going to be that alpha dog, that Julio Jones type? I don't see it on the roster. So, yeah, the identity of the offense right now really hangs in the balance. The run game, parts of the offensive line look really good, parts not so much. And then, will Joe Flacco be asked to win games by himself, or is he going to get some help as well?
Eric Edholm joining us here from Yahoo and the Shutdown Corner blog. All right, last gasp, last shot at all of this stuff here. When it comes to getting back into this thing, the Cowboys, to me, seem to be the team over the next 6 months that we're going to be watching next year, probably more than any other team, even the Patriots, right?
I think so. With the Romo storyline and the way they lost and the expectations not met and the very faint whispers that Jerry Jones still has an eye on a guy like Johnny Manziel or something like that. I mean, look, there's a million ways to look at it. How are they going to improve their defense? Is Jason Garrett, I know he won Coach of the Year, but there's some rumors that he and Romo aren't doing so well, and things like that. And, is Garrett coaching for his job next year, as crazy as that sounds? So, yeah, there's a billion different angles to this. And, maybe they get Jalen Smith back after what looked like a career-ending type knee injury in college. He could be a tremendous player. Maybe they find a pass rusher in the draft or manage to keep the secondary intact and add a little talent. So I'm not going to dismiss them as a Super Bowl contender until we get some real evidence that, boy, things are falling apart. But there's a lot of pressure on them. I mean, this season was like, it came up aces every time, and you couldn't believe how well things were going for them, almost to the point where it was like, well, now it makes sense. We built them up so much, then they collapsed, and now everything kind of hinges on this season. So, yeah, this is Patriots, Cowboys. Those are the two big storylines, I think, heading into the offseason. And, the teams that are chasing them a little bit have to at least feel like with the Cowboys, that pressure, can crack some teams. I mean, that can get to them a little bit.
Yeah, everybody's got pressure except the Patriots right now, and they have pressure because poor Bill Belichick's had 5 weeks where he hasn't been able to keep up with the Joneses, right?
I know. I feel bad for the guy, right? I mean, I feel bad that he's got to catch up now and, really get into that draft prep a little bit. It's one of those quotes that when people hear it, they kind of roll their eyes, but then they also know this is why the guy is who he is and what he's done, because that's how he thinks.
Hey, you're doing a piece on left-handed quarterbacks. What happened to the Jim Zorns of the world, right? I mean,
I know.
They don't exist anymore, right?
Here's a stat for you. There was the only left-handed pass attempted in the NFL last season was by Des Bryant. on a trick play.
I didn't even know he was left-handed.
Yeah, I didn't either until the play happened. I really didn't. Somebody's like, oh, yeah, he warms up, with the quarterbacks before games. I'd never seen it, but it's crazy because, we think about, obviously, the great ones like Steve Young, et cetera.
Snake.
Kind of
yeah.
The misfires like Tebow and Leinart, the first-round picks who didn't pan out. But I got such a variety of answers when I talk to people, and I'll let people wait for when I publish it, maybe in about a month or so. But I didn't get one answer. Everybody said, I said, why aren't there more left-handed quarterbacks? Some people said, it's the offensive design. Some people said there just aren't that many of them. Others said, look, they're all pitching off a mound. They're playing baseball. I got a variety of really interesting answers, and there were more left-handed quarterbacks a generation ago, and this one, there's only a handful of them, and they're usually number 3 or backup guys.
Todd Marijuanovich killed the whole industry, I think, right?
He ruined it, man. Exactly. I wanted that guy to be good so badly when I was a kid. Oh, man.
I just felt bad that he'd never had a Big Mac or something like that. So, hey, Eric, great having you on, man. Great running into you. You're much taller on the radio, as you say, Smokey the Bandit. But we'll be following along and looking forward to seeing you. Hopefully we'll get together in Indianapolis in a couple weeks, and I'll have an Australian tan and some good stories about Bruce Springsteen.
Perfect. Look forward to it. I want to hear about the boss. I'll talk to you then, man.
The boss is my wife, and she's going with me. Yes, that's true.
Smart man. I like that.
You got it. Eric Edholm joining us here from Yahoo Sports and the Shutdown Corner. You can follow his journey as well as his bass guitar out on Twitter at Eric_Edholm. That's EDHOLM. Also wrote a great piece about the 96 Ravens. You should Google that. Take a half an hour and read it. You'll laugh. You'll cry. You'll remember the memories. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me anytime, anywhere, from anywhere on the internet on this planet. I'll be listening to WNST in Brisbane, Australia, and Queensland at some point this weekend as well. I'll be tweeting, Facebooking, linking in, Snapchatting, and maybe even Instagramming. You can check everything out in the bio Toyota Audio Vault from anywhere in the world. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. Our friend Cordell Stewart joined us last week to talk about that. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And if there's any breaking news, Luke has you covered in my absence. Terps, Caps, Ravens, Orioles, anything that happens, you'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Our London trip is now on sale under the Road Trips tab at WNST.net. We're looking forward to a big crowd over there. It's going to be a great time. Feel free to toss an email my way anytime, anywhere. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.